Yo, what's up guys, it's Ruin here with a new video, and today I'm going over the new Maelstrom weapons and Veteran Dragonstar Arena weapons real quick. This is on the public test server, so we're just going to check them out. Personally, what I want to say, just straight up ahead, I know the change, it's a major change. Personally, I don't mind it that much, but that is because I fucking hate the Maelstrom Arena and I never grind it. I can imagine if you just grind Maelstrom over and over to get that right two-handed sharpened axe that you wanted. Or, that sharpened destruction staff. And then holding nerf the nail, it can suck, man. Especially with the transmute system that was coming up, a lot of people were really happy because they were like, now I can finally retrain my Maelstrom weapon. And that they take away the weapon and spell damage. I can imagine that it must suck. However, we're just going over them. A few of the Maelstrom weapons and master weapons are still very, very useful in PvP. I mean, most of them still are, but some are just straight up kind of useless as well because a lot of people aren't using certain abilities. So let's just start with the Maelstrom weapon, shall we? When you do damage with Flurry, your next single target damage or time ability used within 10 seconds gains 2k spell and weapon damage. So this single one-handed axe is part of the dual wield Maelstrom weapon sets. So dual wield, Flurry, it's this one. So yeah, I mean, I don't see a lot of people using it, so I personally don't think it's that great, but yeah, whatever. Maelstrom bow. Increase the damage volley used by 161 each tick. This bonus increased by 56 every time volley ticks. So you get a 161 tick bonus, and every time it hits you get another 56. So I mean, it's useful, but yeah. I personally feel like a lot of these bonuses from what I've seen are still useful in PvE with the certain setups, but in PvP most of them will be not useless at all. For example, I barely see anyone running Flurry or Volley in PvP. Maelstrom Greatsword. Critical charge deals an additional 5k psycho damage over 5 seconds. Now this one is very useful because a lot of people with a two-handed use either critical charge and morph it to stampede, or well, I for example run critical rush, and that is a really nice thing because you just get 5k overtime psycho damage effect. So the two-hander still is really useful for PvP with the merciless charge set. Once again, it's all my opinion. I mean, you don't need to agree. If you disagree, that's totally fine. Just let me know why you disagree. Instead of Ruben, you fucking suck, you ugly face, Maelstrom Inferno stuff. Part of the Crushing Wall set. Your light and heavy attacks deal an additional 1.3k damage to your enemies in your Wall of Elements. So Wall of Elements is actually a nice ability. It's this one. However, I kind of like it mostly when I'm doing like group PvP, I mean, when I'm solo PvPing or small scale like 4 versus, X or stuff like that, I'm barely using Wall of Elements personally. So in a 1 vs 1 situation, I don't think it's that great. I think it's more for like bigger group fights. The Maelstrom Mates. This is also part of the dual wield set, but then the rampaging slash set. When you deal damage with low slash, your next fully charged heavy attack used within 5 seconds restores an additional 2k magicka and stamina. So I mean, this isn't completely useless, but yeah. Dual wield low slash. Oh, by the way, I said this wrong. This isn't part of the dual wield set. It is part of the one hand and shield set. So yeah. Otherwise you can't even use low slash, so I just figured it out real quick during this video. The Maelstrom Restoration stuff. When you critically heal with regeneration, you restore 800 magicka. This effect can acquire once every 4 seconds. So this is really useful in PvP as well, even when you solo, If you have this as an extra piece and you restore an additional 800 magicka, I mean, nothing bad about that, additional magicka recovery. It's actually really useful. So we're now going over the master weapons. First one, Axe to End. Increase the direct damage cleave used by 2000. So 2000, I mean, not a bad increasement, but no one is running fucking cleave in PvP. I mean, not anyone in high level PvP tier. I haven't seen anyone. So yeah, the Master's Bow. So this is one of the few weapons that I think is still extremely useful in PvP, even 1v1, etc. Increase your weapon damage by 300 against targets affected by a poison arrow. I mean, poison arrow is an ability that you use a lot if you use a bow. It's a great overtime damage effect. It hurts so much. And then increase your weapon damage by 300 against targets who you affect by it. Very, very useful. So still really good to Master's Bow in my opinion. The Master's Dagger. Part of the Stinging Slashes set. 0 out of 2 items. Increase the bleed damage twin slashes deals by 1500 each tick. So twin slashes is this ability and it deals some really nice damage. Causing them to bleed for an additional 4.4k psycho damage over 9 seconds. It deals ticks, you know, and each tick will deal an additional 1500. So that's actually not too bad, because that can add up really, really well. The Master's Lightning Staff. Part of the Destructive Impact set. Reduce the cost of Destructive Touch by 12% and increase the direct damage it deals by 1500. So Destructive Touch, you might know it still. This one where you basically throw your enemy away with if you're using an Inferno Staff, if you use a Frost Staff, Immobilize, and Shock Touch stuns the enemy. So I don't see a lot of people using this except when I'm trolling them, for example at the Let's Bridge and trying to throw them off the bridge or off the keep. I mean, there are still some people running it, but not a lot of people overall have it solid on their bar. So for that it isn't that great either. The Master's Restoration Staff. The initial heal of Grand Healing restores 260 stamina to each friendly target affected. So this one is actually interesting. If you use this, Grand Healing, everyone who gets it will get 258 stamina return. So it's actually really nice, but it's once again in a bigger group situation. If you're going like solo or stuff like that, it's not really something you would be using if you're solo or with 2 people, because the healing is just not worth it, you know. It's really something for bigger groups. But if you're in a bigger group, that extra stamina is definitely going to add up to your group members. If you, for example, run a group of 20 people or 24 and they all get 260 stamina, well, that's quite a lot of stamina. It's almost like 6-7k stamina every time you use an ability of 2.8k Magicka. And last but not least, one-handed the Master Sword, part of the Puncturing Remedy set. So this is the one hand and shoot set. When you do damage with puncture, you heal for 2.7k health and gain spell and psycho resistance equal to the amount healed for 3 seconds. It doesn't say like this as a cooldown either. So very simple. When you heal yourself for 2.6k, equal to the amount healed for 3 seconds. So if you heal yourself for 2.6k, you also get 2.6k psycho and spell resistance for 3 seconds. So that's useful, but again, I'm kind of curious how that will work out. Though Puncture is one of the sets that people are actually using. Skills, I mean. It's definitely a decent skill because it definitely can damage the enemy's defense and resistance. So I'm curious, man, I'm curious. Let me know what you think about these changes. Once again, I can kind of get if you are pissed. I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't grind Maelstrom. I really want to grind into last week, but I didn't do it yet. And I'm so glad I didn't, man. Oh. So let me know in the comments what you think about the changes. And yeah, much more views about Clockwork City and the public test server are coming up, as well as build guides, etc. So have a great day, everyone. Bye bye. See you in terminal. I'm out.